Welcome to Uncolored. I'm Kevin Metcalf, and I was going to get into another more practical thing, because again, I want to make these abstract ideas practical so that you can go, oh, yeah, I can do this too. It's not that hard. But there's one more sort of foundational piece that I got to lay down here. Something as I was looking at what I was going to do this week was the thing about the NFL running backs are all upset. But I'm going to put that one off because there's something that we're going to be using, another tool or another lens, if you will, that we're going to be using as we look at a lot of these things practically. And if you remember correctly, when I was talking about the lens, it's like looking through a window, and you're going to see a certain thing if you look through that particular window. But if you look through a different window or a different lens, you're going to see some things that you don't see from the other window. And sometimes that particular perspective, a different perspective, might help you understand the data that you're seeing a little bit better. And again, this is sounding abstract, but I don't want it to be that way. So let's get into it. So the two things we're going to talk about is the masculine nature of human beings and the feminine nature. Okay. And we both have it. Everybody has both. You've got a feminine nature and you have a masculine nature. Everybody has that. And depending on which one at any particular time is the dominant one or the lens that you're looking through, you're going to see things a little bit different. Okay. So before we get into this, I want to play you something by Sam Harris. And this is when him and Jordan Peterson were doing their little tour several years ago, doing discussions around wherever. And Sam Harris is talking about the game of soccer and his impressions about the game of soccer. So take a listen to this.
People do, as you say, go into caring about things that at bottom we really shouldn't care about. So the world.
I apologize. I had to stop right there because one of the things that I'm hoping to help people do if they find it interesting is whenever somebody's talking, always listen for the thing that isn't said. And whenever somebody talks, listen, nobody can explain everything. But oftentimes there's these assumptions or assertions that are never justified, never explained. There's no argument for it. And for some reason, you're supposed to just believe it. And the thing that Sam Harris just said, it may be minor, but I'm telling you, it's the minor things, those little tiny things that you ignore. And usually that's where it is. The devil is in the details. So when Sam Harris says something like things that we shouldn't care about, people caring about things that we shouldn't care about, as having an investigator's mind or an explorer's mindset, one of the things that popped into my head was, how does he know? How could Sam Harris know what people should care about and what they should not care about? And I'm not saying that he doesn't. I'm asking, how does he know? And what's his argument for why he knows? Or what are the things that we should care about? I mean, does he have a list or something like that? It was just a very interesting kind of a throwaway. Things we should care about and shouldn't care about. And I'm just wondering how Sam knows. What would be his list of things to care about and things that he should not care about or we shouldn't care about? And I mean, is it an infallible list or is it just an impression? You see what I'm saying? Just that statement alone. There's a whole lot of questions to ask, a whole lot of things to explore in that little throwaway line just right there. And remember, when people are talking, you can't give anyone a pass. I'm talking about me, the people that you love, your professors, the politicians, no one gets a pass. Everything that somebody says, you need to think about it and ask the question, how do they know that? Why should I believe that? What is their argument for the thing that they're telling me? What's the evidence for this thing that they're trying to tell me? And this discussion, there's no There's no evidence. I mean, there's no information about why Sam Harris knows what we should care about or not care about. I know it's a minor thing, but I'm telling you, when you're taking in data, the devil is in the details. The things that you kind of go, that's not a big deal. Oftentimes it's a really big deal. And as an investigator or an explorer, to have that mindset, there's no detail too small for you to pin down and figure it out. Just an aside thing. We're not even going to get into that. But I think that was just it's an important idea that I wanted to explain. All right, here we go again.
World Cup is on right now, and we literally billions of people care down to their toes what happens to this little ball as it traverses a lawn, right? And if it goes into the net, it really matters. And if it fails to, it really matters. And
it always matters if we hit the target, Sam.
But this is something we have manufactured to care about, right?
It's something that speaks to us unbelievably.
It's quite literally a game. This is a game that people are playing, but...
So that's all I wanted you to hear, and I encourage you to hear the whole conversation, because there's a lot of good ideas going back and forth. But Sam is struggling with the idea of just not necessarily soccer, but sports and competition in general. You could probably make a more broader application. And his question is why do we care if somebody kicks the ball? Why do you care if your favorite team hits that last shot and wins the championship? Now, Sam Harris says this is something that is manufactured. Again, I would love to hear his idea and his arguments behind that. If you heard Dr. Jordan Peterson chime in a couple of times, right? DJP is like, it is important if you hit the target. It's very important that you hit the target. And when Sam Harris said that it was something that's manufactured, Jordan Peterson also said that no, it's an innate thing. It's a very deep thing. Okay. Now, I happen to agree with Dr. Jordan Peterson. And this gets to the topic of what we're going to talk about. It's the masculine spirit and that feminine spirit, that thing that we both have. And they're very different in how they regard the world and the data in the world. And depending on which lens you're looking at, you're going to see different things. Okay. There's a lot of books, but there's a lot of literature on this. And generally speaking, they're going to center around sort of the same ideas. Some people have different things they include, and some have some things that some people include, others people will not include. But one of the central ideas that you'll see over and over again, regardless of who's talking about, is sort of the nature of those two different energies, they will call them sometimes. So I'm going to give you the uncolored version. This is a theory. Again, you can disagree, but as I understand it, this is how it seems. The masculine spirit is different in that the goal of the masculine spirit, it's driven towards perfection. It's drawn to perfection. That's the masculine spirit. It's always trying to get better and better. And it compares itself, how it's getting better, by an objective standard. So if you run 5 miles, I want to run 6. If you can run a mile in 5 minutes, I want to do it in less than 5 minutes. Why? Because I'm comparing what I'm doing to what you're doing. And if you do it better than me, that means I'm not as close to perfect as you are. So I want to be better. That's the masculine spirit. And you also notice that the masculine spirit, the masculine energy, the framework, it uses an objective standard of measure. So it's not ambiguous as to who's better. This guy built a 1-story house. The next person wants to build a 2-story house. Right? This guy climbed that mountain. I'm going to go climb a higher mountain. You used ropes and chains and stuff or whatever they use. Okay. I'm going to climb it barefoot. Just my hands and feet. I got to do better than what you did. That's the masculine spirit. It's constantly trying to measure itself against other things to show that it's better or closer to perfect. That's what sports is all about. That's the thing that Sam Harris can't get his head around. that the masculine spirit, it's drawn to perfection. That's why, listen, in a boxing match, right, or MMA, whatever you're watching today, I don't do boxing anymore. If one fighter wins, but not convincingly, what do we want to see? We want to see a rematch. Why? We're not sure he's the best. We want to know what's best. That's the masculine spirit, right? And if the other guy wins, guess what we're looking for? We want a third match. We're not okay not knowing who the best is. The masculine spirit is drawn towards perfection. As a matter of fact, the worst thing to the masculine spirit isn't losing. You know what the worst thing is? A tie. We hate the tie. Listen, if I lose to somebody, there's information there. I can look at what happened, maybe get better, and maybe get closer to perfection. But if there's a tie, I don't learn anything. And for that, there can't be two people who are good. That's the other part of the masculine nature that's going to be important as we're going to talk about it. The nature of the masculine side is by definition exclusionary. It's like I said, there can only be one best. There can't be two best. If there's two best, then there's no best as far as the masculine mindset is concerned. So it's constantly driven to be closer and closer to an objective perfect. And it uses logic, reason, and objective standards to judge. So what the masculine spirit does is it values you on what you do, what you can achieve. That's how value is given in a masculine setting, under that masculine lens. Now, the feminine spirit is different. The feminine spirit is about affirmation. It's about how does the world regard me? And if the world regards me well and affirms me, everything's fine. But if the world's telling me negative things about me, then I'm mad at the world. Why? Because the goal of the feminine spirit, it measures itself not by what it achieves, but how the world regards it. It's about me and how everybody thinks about me. One example I'll give you is that, for example, so when Kathleen Kennedy took over at Star Wars at Disney doing the Star Wars movies, she made a bunch of movies and her thing was the Force is female, right? It's going to be feminism all day, every day. And a series of movies came out that did not do very well, or at least not as well as projected. I mean, you got the Star Wars franchise, should be able to print money. So when people didn't like the movie, the feminine spirit says, you must hate women. That's why you don't like the movie. You hate women, and you hate strong women. Wait a minute, hold on. I don't like Ripley, right? I don't like Sarah Connor or Commander Kusanagi, because those were, as I was growing up, my favorite characters. But suddenly, because I don't like these characters, I suddenly hate women, or I don't like women leads. Now, logically, it makes no sense. But here's the feminine lens. When you criticize, and it's taken in through the feminine lens, you're not criticizing the thing they did. You're criticizing them. So the fact that it was a bad movie, or some of these movies were just terrible movies, that's impossible through the feminine lens. Through the feminine lens, it's only affirmation. It can't be that I made a terrible movie. Oh no, it must mean that you hate me. So it becomes a personal thing. It's not about the movie anymore. It's about me, right? Blacks do the same thing with racism. There was a movie called, what is it? The Woman King. I haven't seen any of these movies, so I don't know if they're bad or not. But if you didn't like The Woman King, guess what? It couldn't be that The Woman King was a bad movie. That's impossible from the feminine perspective. It's impossible that they made a bad movie. It must be you don't like black people and women. See, the feminine perspective is not able to deal with criticism. Just is not. Why? Because criticism doesn't affirm them. So when you're called racist or homophobe or you hate women, what the feminine spirit is telling you is that you're not affirming me. You're criticizing what I've done, what I think, right, or what I believe. The masculine side loves criticism. For the masculine side, criticism is like plant food. It's the meat. That's the thing that you need to get better. And you don't take it personally. If you're looking through the masculine, if you build something, somebody goes, well, that's kind of cool over there, but that's all jacked up over there. You don't start crying. You don't get upset. You don't say you hate me. No, you like that. Why? Because now you can improve and get closer to perfection. So the masculine side is not thinking about it personally. The masculine side takes criticism as either A, it's valid, which means I can use it to get better, or B, it's not valid, which means I just ignore it. So criticism, whether it's valid or invalid, the masculine side loves criticism. That's how you get better. You know, I've given this example before. When I was a kid, you know, my older brother got me hooked on comic books. And, you know, it wasn't the reading or the stories that got me. It was always the artwork. And so at a very early age, I began drawing. So about 6 or 7 years old, I drew a suit for my dad. You know, back then, you guys don't know about this, but women wore stockings all the time. And there were these legs or eggs or some sort of a stocking, but they would be wrapped around this little cardboard thing in the package. And my mom would always give me the cardboard packages and I would draw stuff on them. So I drew a picture of a suit for my dad, because my dad worked at Lockheed and he was one of these, you know, an executive, and he's always got these nice suits. So I draw him a suit. And I show my mom first. Mom loves it. Oh, it's the best thing. Okay. It was a terrible drawing. I just started. My mom, it's the best thing. I then show it to my dad. He begins ripping it apart. I mean, not literally, but he's like, the sleeves are too long, right? One leg's longer than the other. There's too many buttons. I mean, he just starts telling me all the things that were wrong with it. That's the masculine and feminine side. My mom's job is to affirm my value. My dad's job is to say, objectively speaking, you need to do better. You need to be better. And after he gave me all of his critiques, he says, now go back and try it again. Those are the differences between the masculine and the feminine side. Now, the great thing about the masculine side is all of the material things that you have that are wonderful, it's because of the masculine side. That's why phones continue to get better. That's why cars continue to improve, because we're looking for perfection. What did we not do the last time, and how can we make it better? The masculine side is obsessed with that. Feminine side is not. But here's the downside about the masculine side. The masculine side is not capable of capturing human value. Your value as a human being has nothing to do with how smart you are, how much money you have, how good you look. None of that has anything to do with your value as a human being. Your value as a human being is based solely on one thing, that you are created by God. That's what the founders of the country understood, that God created us. And because of that, your value as a human being, it's immeasurable. It cannot be measured by any objective standard at all. That's what the feminine spirit captures. The feminine spirit captures the value of the human being. That's why they don't like the exclusionary nature of the masculine spirit. Because again, can only be one best. The masculine spirit by nature is exclusionary, which means there's a lot of people who have value who cannot participate where the masculine spirit is dominant. So you've got the feminine spirit mad at the masculine spirit. Why? Because all these people are being excluded and deemed not valuable to participate because they are not fast enough or far smart enough or can run. That's what they're concerned. That's what that feminine spirit is concerned about. The exclusionary nature of the masculine spirit. Because it sees everybody as equally value. Most of your socialists, they're led by their feminine spirit. They hate capitalism. Hate capitalism. Why? Capitalism is exclusionary. It's a masculine thing. The free market is a masculine thing. You have to produce something of value to somebody else. So it's based on what you can do. If you can do more, you're going to get more. Feminine spirit hates that. They hate that there are some people who have more than others. Why? It doesn't go well with their belief that everybody's equal, that everybody has an equal value. So when the socialist looks at capitalism, they're using a feminine eye. They're looking through the feminine lens. That's why that's why socialism never works. Why? Because the value in an objective world is based on what you do. If you can produce more than the next guy, you're going to make more money. If you can sell better than the next salesman, you're going to make more money. If you can think better than the other person, you're going to produce more good ideas, you're going to produce better ideas. And people are going to want you for those ideas. The person who has bad ideas, they don't want you. We don't have anything to do with you. That's the problem, but that's the tension between the masculine and feminine spirits. Sometimes people will regard a circumstance in the real world with the feminine spirit and go, that's not fair. But when you look at it through the masculine lens, it's like, well, what's the problem here? Everything's fine. When someone says the term toxic masculinity, that's what they're talking about. They don't like the fact that the objective world, the masculine world, is exclusionary by its very nature, and that people are not allowed in. Trying to be the best, trying to be the strongest, trying to be the fastest, trying to have the most whatever. That doesn't go well with the feminine spirit. And people who are led by the feminine spirit have a big problem with the masculine spirit. But here's the big problem here. But this is what it leads to. When you're looking at data through the wrong lens, you're going to get bad outcomes. When you're trying to tie someone's value to how smart they are, to how good they look, to how much money they have, you're doing it wrong. People's value is not tied to that. That's not what makes somebody valuable. That's not what makes somebody important. But by the same token, when you're going out into an objective world and you produce something and it's bad, and people tell you it's bad, and people don't want to pay for it or buy it, the feminine side can't understand that. It's like, I did this thing. You should like it. Why? Because I'm worthy. I'm a worthwhile person. They don't understand when they make a bad movie and people hate the movie, that the movie was bad. No, they think they're attacking them as a person. When somebody makes more money than another person, what are you saying? That person's less valuable? Well, on the masculine lens, yes, they are actually less valuable. How do you know? Because this guy's getting more money than the other one. But that's not going with the feminine spirit. So you can see the tension between the two. This is from, I want to give her credit, from a young lady, a woman called Rena Satre Melody. It's an okay article. You know, it's about the, she's in the spiritual nature of it. But she does a good job of just sort of giving you the basic idea of what I've been talking about. And you'll find this same sort of idea in pretty much any book you read on the topic. It'll have similar descriptions of it. But here's what she says. In a nutshell, regardless of our biological sex, we have a mix of masculine and feminine energy, and we need both in our daily lives, right? Because again, we need to know that we need to achieve, but we can't forget the value of individuals. It's not saying that. That's what I'm thinking, saying aloud. Masculine energy is characterized by doing and achieving and is molded by logic and reason. Okay, it's an objective world, objective standards. The feminist is more intuitive, oriented towards receiving and allowing, characterized by being. Okay, and then there's a little example here of the being mode: receiving, intuitive mind, internal. Receptive, fluid, allowing, feeling, empathetic, vulnerable, creative. That's why when it says creative, that's why a lot of artists and actors and film people and musicians, that's why a lot of them are liberal oriented, because the feminine side is a more creative side than the masculine side. But here's the bad part: powerless, manipulative, needy, overly sensitive, that's for damn sure, and codependent. While the masculine side is more about doing, giving, logical mind, external, protective, focused, achieving, planning, confident, goal-oriented, and driven. Again, driven to perfection. But what's the imbalance? Aggressive, confrontational, controlling, sure, micromanaging, competitive. Yes, those are all the things that are true about both natures. I think that's a very good sort of way to capsulize both natures. On the one side, you have this side that's driven for an objective win, a better, a perfect, a more. And then you have another side who's concerned about upholding the value of their own humanity, of their own spirit, that I'm a valuable person. That's the goal on that side. The masculine side, it's using an objective standard to measure the things you do, the things you think, and the ways you behave. And it looks at it objectively and go, these are good and these are bad. And that information is fantastic if you want to improve. Feminine side hates criticism. It only wants to be affirmed. But that's the lens you want to use if you're talking about the value of a human being. It's so funny. So my wife and I, we used to go to, she loves to go shopping, right? And we go to the mall and I'd stand around while she's looking at stuff. And if I happened to be at the same store, because sometimes she would make me follow her around, and she would show me dresses, shoes, purses, like I have any clue. And she'd ask my opinion. And I would tell her if I something I'd like, she wouldn't like it. And if I told her something I didn't like, she liked it. Right? Invariably, that's what happened, because I don't know anything about women's fashion other than what I like when I see it. And so finally I go, why are you even asking me if you don't, if I say I like it, you're not going to get it. And if I don't like it, you get it anyway. So why are you even asking me? Here's what she says. I just want you to affirm what I think. So if I like it, I want you to say that you like it. And if I don't like it, I want you to say you don't like it. I just want you to affirm what I want. That's the feminine spirit. I need the world to affirm me. That's what I'm looking for. Meanwhile, I'm over here giving her some objective judgments. She didn't want any of that. She just wants me to say the things she wants to hear. It's just how it is. So what we're going to do next time is we're going to look at this, the NFL running back wage problem through the light of this lens of the masculine lens and the feminine lens. And you're going to start to see how this works when you're looking at just daily things you see in the newspaper. When you look at a masculine lens, you're going to see it one way. When you look at a feminine lens, you're going to see a whole different thing. And not recognizing that you have both of these lenses on, and you're going to be led by one rather than the other, and that colors how you think, what you believe about things, just recognizing that alone will help you see more about what's being said and what's being told to you. Another thing we're going to do down the road is we're going to go over this debate between a socialist and a free market advocate. And when you listen to them, it's the socialist, total feminine lens from the word go. The free market guy, it's all objective. It's a masculine lens. This works, that doesn't work. And you can see them almost talking past each other most of the time. Of course, in debates, that's generally what happens anyway. But it's fascinating to see when you look at it through those, when you can see the two lenses that people are talking through. You can see, oh yeah, this guy's coming from the feminine perspective, and that guy's going from a masculine perspective. That's their difference. So, all right. Hey, thanks, and I appreciate all the comments I got on that Dion video. Again, I don't have anything against Dion. I hope they do have a great success. But I appreciate your comments regardless. Please continue to comment. Please like and subscribe. And if you have any questions or disagreements, I'm always open to hear those things. I love reading your comments because I do learn stuff and ideas that I didn't really think of from some of your comments. So I appreciate that. And with that, that's it. All right, get out of here. That's enough.